I never imagined that my years in the Navy would ever matter in a quiet, tree-lined suburb. But one afternoon, all of that training came back in the most violent way imaginable. Three men in dark tactical vests suddenly appeared on my lawn, pretending they had some authority over our little neighborhood. And one of them made a mistake he would regret forever. He raised a hand to my wife, Emily. By the time the day was over, their smug confidence had completely vanished. Drop your location in the comments. Let's see how far this story reaches around the world. But before I get ahead of myself, I want to know, which country are you watching this from? Let's see how far this story travels. It all began that morning while Emily was tending to our flower beds. She noticed a black SUV creeping slowly around the block, making 3 complete circuits before finally stopping directly across the street. 3 men stepped out, wearing heavy, dark tactical vests with what looked like official-looking patches sewn on. At first glance, they could have passed for law enforcement. But Emily immediately sensed something was wrong. Their belts were cheap nylon, the holsters were plastic, and not one of them had a radio. Any real officer shows up prepared to communicate. The tallest of the 3 walked straight toward our front yard, his boots crunching against the gravel. "Ma'am," he barked, holding up a badge so clearly fake it looked like it came from a toy chest. "We're here for an HOA inspection." Emily tilted her head, keeping her voice calm but firm. "Since when does the HOA hire armed officers?" That's when the second man's lips curled into a sly grin. "We're not hired by anyone," he said, his voice sharp. "We are the law around here." Emily didn't flinch. "I suggest you leave right now," she replied steadily. "Trespassing on private property without reason is illegal." Instead of backing down, the third man stepped closer, his hand lingering near a cheap, plastic baton at his side. Emily instinctively pulled out her phone to record them, and in a flash, he slapped it from her hand. Then, in a moment that made my blood run cold, he struck her across the face. That was the last straw. I had been in the garage, sorting through old equipment and metals from my time in service. When I heard her scream, I ran outside and saw her, clutching her cheek, while these impostors puffed up like they owned the street. Every ounce of patience I had as a neighbor vanished. Combat instincts took over. I strode toward them, my voice low but deadly serious. "You've picked the wrong house. You've got 5 seconds to tell me who sent you." The tallest one sneered. "The HOA president said you've been ignoring notices. We're just here to enforce compliance." He tried to stare me down, but I've faced far scarier opponents, mercenaries, armed warlords, and a suburban wannabe in a fake vest didn't even register. I told Emily to step inside and lock the door. She didn't hesitate. She knew exactly what was coming. I closed the distance to the intruders, voice quiet but menacing. "Touch my wife again," I said, "and you won't be walking out of here alive." They laughed nervously, but the veneer of confidence started cracking when I asked for proper identification. They refused. Any real law enforcement officer is legally obligated to show ID when acting officially. The truth hit me. These weren't just trespassers. They were impersonating officers. A federal crime. And right there, in the middle of the street, in broad daylight, with half the neighborhood watching, I made a choice. There would be no compromise. The moment I realized they were fakes, all restraint disappeared. I hadn't thrown a punch yet, but I shifted my stance, feet firm on the pavement, shoulders squared, eyes locked on the tallest imposter. It was the same posture I had taken countless times in hostile zones. Right before chaos erupted, the 3 men sensed it immediately. Their laughter faltered. The tallest one, clearly the self-declared leader, jabbed a finger at me. "You think you can flout HOA rules? We warned you about your truck, your fence, and your so-called military dogs. We're here to make sure you comply." A low, controlled chuckle rose in my chest. "Calm, but edged with steel," I replied. "First, I park legally. My fence is entirely within city regulations. And my dogs? They're service animals, fully protected under federal law." I stepped forward, forcing him backward a step. "Second, you're trespassing and impersonating law enforcement. That's a federal crime. 10 years if you're lucky." The shortest man tried to salvage his ego. "You can't threaten us. We'll arrest you right here." He fumbled with the Velcro straps on his belt, producing a pair of toy-grade handcuffs that couldn't restrain a child. That was it. My patience snapped. I moved without hesitation. My left hand seized his wrist, twisting until the fake cuffs clattered to the ground. My right elbow drove cleanly into his jaw, dropping him to the grass like a bag of bricks, groaning. The second man swung his baton wildly. I sidestepped, caught his arm mid-swing, and used his momentum to flip him over my shoulder. He hit the concrete with a sickening thud, silencing the neighbors who had gathered along the sidewalks. The leader froze, eyes wide, trying to maintain the facade. "You're assaulting officers," he barked. I stepped close enough for him to feel my presence. "No," I said, voice tight with authority. "I'm stopping 3 criminals from hurting my wife. Big difference." At that moment, Emily appeared in the doorway, phone raised, recording every second. "I've already called the sheriff," she shouted. "They're on the way." The leader cursed under his breath and bolted toward the SUV. I wasn't letting him escape. Grabbing the back of his vest, I yanked him off balance and slammed him against the hood of his vehicle. He thrashed, but his bravado meant nothing. He had no skill, no training, only a stitched-on badge. By the time the real deputies arrived, 2 of the impostors were sprawled on the ground, nursing injuries, while the third lay face down on the SUV with my knee pressing into his back. The deputies didn't waste a second. Weapons drawn, they barked, "Hands where we can see them." I raised mine instantly, stepping back while Emily pointed directly at the 3 impostors. "Those are the ones," she shouted. "They hit me. They pretended to be officers." The deputies moved quickly, disarming them, stripping off the fake vests, and within minutes, the truth started to unravel. The ringleader cracked first. Under questioning, he admitted the HOA president had paid them cash to teach us a lesson. That was when it hit me. This wasn't random harassment. It was a calculated conspiracy. By the time we reached the sheriff's station, the 3 pretenders looked completely defeated. Their counterfeit uniforms were bagged as evidence, their wrists cuffed for real, and their stories crumbled under scrutiny. During interrogation, they confirmed what I had already suspected: the HOA president, Margot Hayes, had orchestrated the whole attack. She had instructed them to intimidate me, scare Emily, and pressure us into compliance. When the deputies turned to ask if I wanted to press charges, I didn't hesitate. "Absolutely," I said. "Impersonating officers is a felony. Assaulting my wife is going to cost them dearly." Margot, however, wasn't done scheming. By the end of the day, she had the audacity to file a lawsuit against me, claiming I had used excessive force and tarnished the HOA's reputation. She even tried to argue that her hired men were legitimate security contractors and that I had overreacted. My attorney nearly laughed when he read the paperwork. "This is perfect," he said. "We'll countersue for harassment, assault, and conspiracy. And with video evidence of everything, this won't end the way she imagines." The courtroom date arrived swiftly. On one side, Margot sat smugly in a crisp blazer, whispering frantically to her lawyer. On the other side, Emily held my hand, calm and composed, while our attorney prepared to dismantle their entire case. The judge didn't waste time. He asked the HOA's lawyer to present their argument first. Their case was thin, built entirely on lies, and collapsed the moment Emily's video played on the courtroom screen. There we were, Emily being struck, me warning them to back off, the fake badges, and every act of deception captured in crystal clear detail. The judge leaned back, unimpressed. "These men are criminals, and you, Mrs. Hayes, hired them. Not only is your lawsuit dismissed, but I am sanctioning you for abuse of the legal system." My attorney rose, voice steady but commanding. "Your Honor, we are filing a counterclaim today: conspiracy to commit assault, intentional infliction of emotional distress, and harassment orchestrated by the HOA." The courtroom went silent. Justice, finally, was on our side. "My clients deserve full restitution," my attorney declared.
Voice firm and unwavering, Margot's face drained of color. Her veneer of authority crumbled as the weight of the words sank in. By the time the gavel came down, the judge had not only dismissed her baseless lawsuit, but also held her personally liable for damages. The HOA board members who had come to observe quietly exited the courtroom, avoiding her gaze entirely. Her carefully constructed empire of intimidation was unraveling right before her eyes. As for the 3 impostors, they were taken into custody without bail, each facing multiple felony charges. After the proceedings, the sheriff approached me and shook my hand. "Good thing you stayed calm," he said. "Most people freeze in a situation like that." You likely prevented something far worse from happening to your wife. I nodded, holding Emily close. Margot had tried to control us with fear, lies, and hired muscle. Instead, she lost everything. Did you enjoy the video? Then show your support with a like, share your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe to become part of this journey.